addiction, basically physiologically, if you boil it down to its essence, is dopamine downregulation in the nucleus accumbens. And it's, it's important for sex, it's important for eating, it's important, for the basic drives that are just so foundational, that they had to be sort of hardwired in to make sure that we didn't forget to do these things, right? And these are the parts of the brain that can be hijacked by sort of artificially strong stimuli, right? Like internet porn or donuts, right? Things that just didn't exist back in the day. Because your brain has adapted to need that much stimulation just to be normal. So this is what people who've never been really addicted to anything don't get, is that the addict isn't using to get high anymore. The addict is using to get normal.
Yeah.
Trying to get back to baseline.
I'm glad you made that point.
And more of our ancestors were killed by starvation than anything else. That was the thing that really took out most of the ancestors who came before us. It wasn't predators, it wasn't disease, it was starvation. So when you realize that that's the case, all throughout our evolutionary history, we were adapting ways to solve that problem. How can we become a more efficient animal that is not so likely to be taken out by starvation problems, because we kept facing them. So we adapted really efficient strategies for finding calorie-dense food, for putting on and keeping on weight, and for preferring calorie-dense food. All things equal, we are always going to seek out the richest food in the environment. So we are very, very attuned to even slight little dopamine shifts, because that essentially dopamine says, that's good, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. But what happens with the highly processed food is it's blowing those dopamine receptors out of the water. It's exaggerating the pleasure signal that we're getting and telling us, you've never had a better idea. This is the best possible thing you could be doing for your survival and reproduction right now. I can't believe how lucky you are. You better eat as much of this as you can possibly get.
Well, the first thing I want to point out is, there is not a single successful weight loss solution out there. Go get, 10 obese people and say, please eat very little and move around. And I'm going to come back and measure you in a year or two and see if you're thin. They won't be. So
not all of them will. Yeah.
In the real world, give them the suggestion to eat less and exercise more. Alexandra, they can't do it. It doesn't work.
They can't do it, or it doesn't work. So, because I was always raised for years. I mean, we've all been raised. If you ingest less but move more, you will lose weight. And
it's not true.
So it's like physiologically, it's not true.
No, it's that an embodied person in this environment won't be able to do it.
Ah, yes.
Right,
Okay, that I get. Yes, they can't stick to it. It's unrealistic with all these drugs around.
So first of all, you go to the gym, and the first thing that happens is something called the compensation effect kicks in, which is now you deserve a muffin and a latte because you just worked out 3 times this week.
I snapped and I got up and I put my fist through a wall. And then boom, I put my fist through a door just because I couldn't take it, because I wasn't getting my fix of Taco Bell, which sounds so crazy to even say that. But in the moment, man, like that was all that I wanted. I needed that Taco Bell. And so in the middle of the night, after everyone had gone to bed, I snuck out of the house and I went to the 24-hour drive-through. I placed my $20 order, came home, polished off every single bite of that, and I wept. I wept as I was eating that, because that was the night that I fully realized I was addicted. Mm-hmm. Taco Bell had become my drug at that point. But to this day, as you said, like, I hate it when I reach the end of that meal. And I hate it when I start to feel full, because I still get such enjoyment out of eating that I don't want that enjoyment to end. Even if I know if I keep going, it's going to lead me down a bad road, and I could just open up Pandora's box and go right back to the way that I had been. And I don't care if I'm gorging on Taco Bell. I don't care if I'm gorging on healthy food. I don't want to gorge anymore. That to me is it's a dangerous, risky behavior. And so I fight with myself almost on a daily basis with that.
The ultimate definition of always too much and never enough. There's always too much food in the house, but never quite enough, because we always want more and more and more. And honestly, it was the industry, the food industry, the junk food industry, the meat industry, the dairy industry that was driving this whole more. Actually waiting for us to become reliant onto a system that would never ever satisfy us.
Right.
Because it like these foods, as you know, are literally created in such a way that they hit our palate with the perfect amount of smushy to fatty to salty, and they hit that part of us that can never be sated. When you go to the store and you go in the snack aisle, you see a whole lot of company names. And those companies want you to buy the product. And so they're creating it with a whole lot of research to make sure that you're gonna go back for that over and over again. Whereas if you look in the vegan section of the grocery store, otherwise known as the produce section, you're not gonna see a whole lot of company names. You're gonna see a whole lot of fruits and vegetables sitting there. And if we start to pivot it and incorporate more and more whole foods onto our plates, start to rid yourself of those addictions. And those addictions are real. That's another reason why we have to be compassionate with ourselves, because we are part of the problem. We are part of the system when we're picking up that same food over and over again.
It's a controlled trial. So individuals that enter the treatment study have the opportunity to either be a part of the treatment diet, which is a plant-based diet, or the control diet, which is the diet that's being served at the treatment center, which is an elevated Western diet. It's still meat, eggs, and dairy, but it's removal of a lot of processed foods and a lot of inflammatory oils. And people who enter treatment are either overfed and undernourished or underfed and undernourished for a very specific reason. People who are dealing with end-stage substance abuse will always prioritize using over anything, and that includes food. Using something called the Connor-Davidson Resiliency Scale, which is used to measure the effectiveness of PTSD treatment. We're also looking at self-compassion, looking at spiritual healing. We're looking at anxiety, depression, mania, obsessive compulsive drug use, and eating disorder scales. And what we are finding after the study has been going now, the participant part of the study has been running now for nearly 11 months. And what we're finding is that in every single measurable outcome, the plant-based group is doing better. So we have these stories of these individuals who say, this is not my first, this is not my second, this is not my third time in treatment. And I was in the treatment group and this felt different.
Fundamentally, you can sort of put the plug in the jug, which is an AA term for stopping the addictive behavior, right? You can stop drinking, you can stop eating sugar, you can stop binging. But if you don't then do the inner work to sort of fundamentally heal on the inside, that's going to be temporary. There are going to be emotional cues, patterns of, whatever it is. It could be self-loathing, it could be low self-worth, it could be, not setting boundaries, it could be whatever, right? That will propel you back toward using your substance, because frankly, life is really painful if you don't have good coping strategies and if you haven't, sort of developed that peaceful inner core. How do you handle that? Well, the way to bridge that willpower gap is to automate your eating like you brush your teeth.
But if you kind of have to know what your set point is, what your trigger foods are, where you're likely to get into trouble, and then keep it out of your house.